Welcome back to ZE Coins. Today, we are going to dive deep into one of the most fascinating and highly sought-after pennies ever produced by the United States Mint, the 1969 Lincoln 1-cent coin bearing its defining mint mark. Our journey begins at a moment in American history filled with energy, change, and innovation. The year was 1969. Across the country, people were glued to television screens to watch a human being take his first steps on the moon. The era of NASA's Apollo missions was inspiring the world. The Beatles were recording their final melodies together. Woodstock was pulsing with music and culture. And against this backdrop, the United States Mint continued its everyday, but profoundly important, work of producing billions of coins that would flow into the economy and into the lives of ordinary Americans. Among those coins was the classic copper Lincoln 1-cent piece. By 1969, the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for 60 years, ever since it replaced the Indian head penny in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin features Lincoln's striking side profile on the obverse, a design so enduring that it remains deeply familiar today. But the 1969 penny isn't just another year in this long and proud lineage. Something about this coin makes collectors sit up, take notice, and sometimes pay astonishing sums of money to secure it for their collection. Why is that? What makes this single copper coin stand out in a sea of billions? To answer that, we turn to the specific mint mark. This tiny letter, struck just beneath the date, holds immense significance. It tells us where the coin was made, and for 1969, the United States Mint was operating facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Although each facility played a role in generating the country's coinage, San Francisco, in particular, produced coins with incredible precision and was responsible for creating many of the proof sets sought after by collectors. The 1969 penny bearing a mint mark represents more than just a physical location. It carries an identity, a production history, and for some coins, an enduring mystery. Collectors know that pennies from this year can carry unusual characteristics, double strikes, rare varieties, and particular die imperfections, that propel their market value far beyond expectations. Some coins from 1969 have become legendary, fetching breathtaking prices and inspiring new collectors to dig through their jars and drawers in the hope of discovering a hidden treasure. But even without the most extreme rare varieties, the standard 1969 penny with its mint mark still captures the attention of hobbyists and historians alike. Its copper composition alone sets it apart from modern pennies, which today contain mostly zinc. Before 1982, the old American penny was composed largely of copper, making it not only visually warmer and richer in tone but also intrinsically more valuable in metal content. As the camera zooms in on the worn but beautiful lettering of United States of America, one can almost imagine the coin's long life. Maybe it passed through the hands of a bus driver setting aside change for a cup of coffee. Perhaps it sat in the pocket of a young student scribbling notes in a classroom. Maybe it lay forgotten under the cushions of a family couch before making its way into a collector's hopeful palm. Every penny carries a story, and the 1969 mint mark Lincoln cent holds more than most. Collectors often search for these coins for several reasons. The first is nostalgia. The late 1960s are remembered as a defining era in American culture, and owning a piece of that history feels meaningful. Second is the rich copper shine and the unmistakable feel of an older coin. Third is the possibility of finding a rare variety, something produced by accident, overlooked by the mint, and released into circulation as an unsuspected treasure. But above all else, the 1969 penny carries its greatest draw, its potential value. In the numismatic world, value is shaped by several factors including rarity, condition, luster, historical importance, and collector demand. A well-preserved 1969 penny with a clean mint mark can command an impressive price. When its details are sharp, when its surface is free from excessive wear, when its color remains rich and eye-catching, the coin often becomes a prized acquisition. Many collectors are willing to pay far more than face value to own such a piece. This fascination with condition leads us to the world of coin grading. Professional graders examine every curve, shadow, and ridge of a coin, rating it on a scale that ranges from heavily worn to nearly perfect mint state. A coin from 1969 that has survived decades without scratches, discoloration, or loss of detail becomes incredibly rare. While billions of pennies were minted that year, only a small fraction remain in the high-grade condition that collectors desire. Imagine a pristine 1969 penny, its copper sheen glowing as if it were struck yesterday. You tilt it gently under the light and see every line of Lincoln's hair, the clarity of the date, the crisp curve of the mint mark. Such a coin has transcended its identity as currency. It is now a miniature time capsule, a piece of American heritage preserved in metal, and that brings us to the question burning in the minds of viewers: what is the real value of this remarkable coin today? The market for collectible coins is constantly shifting, shaped by availability, interest, and the excitement of new discoveries. But within this landscape, the 1969 mint mark 1-cent Lincoln penny continues to command respect, admiration, and significant financial worth. Collectors, auctions, and grading organizations have documented examples of beautiful, high-quality 1969 pennies selling for sums that would surprise those who once dropped them casually into fountains for luck. And for a coin in strong condition with well-preserved detail, the price can reach truly impressive levels. We're diving deep into the story, mystery, and value of the 1971 United States 1-cent Lincoln penny. It's a story of misprints, mint marks, rarity, and discovery, one that reveals how an everyday coin can transform into a miniature time capsule and, in the right circumstances, a surprising treasure. To understand why the 1971 penny captures so much curiosity, we need to step back into its world, an era marked by shifting national moods, cultural transformation, and economic change. The year 1971 was a moment of transition in American coinage, just as it was a transition for the country itself. The Vietnam War was still raging, NASA was advancing into new frontiers, and Americans were beginning to feel the effects of inflation that would shape the coming decade. Within the U.S. Mint, countless coins were being produced at breakneck speed to meet the needs of a growing, shifting economy. And in the midst of this momentum, the Lincoln penny quietly persisted as a constant symbol in the American pocket. The iconic design of the 1-cent coin in 1971 still featured Victor David Brenner's classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a familiar face Americans had seen on their pennies since 1909. The reverse continued to show the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 for the coin's 50th anniversary. But even within that familiar image, details matter: the shape of the lettering, the strikes, the small variations between mints, and the condition the coin survives in today. These seemingly minor details allow collectors to tell a common penny from an exceptional 1.3 mints were responsible for producing the 1971 1-cent coin, the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. Each mint gave the coin a slightly different identity. Philadelphia, as usual, produced coins with no mint mark. Denver used the famous D mint mark. And San Francisco, primarily focused on proof sets by this time, issued coins with an unmistakable S mint mark. While most of these pennies were struck by the millions and used in daily life, a few specific examples, especially from San Francisco, became the objects of fascination. Collectors today pay close attention to variations in minting quality, strength of strike, luster, and especially errors. The early 1970s were known for enormous production numbers, and the higher the volume, the greater the chances that something unusual slips through the cracks. For penny hunters, that unusual moment can turn a 1-cent coin into a prize point. One of the most intriguing aspects of the 1971 penny is the striking difference in value between a regular circulated coin and one that has been preserved in exceptional condition. Picture a coin with mirror-like shine, crisp details, and flawless fields, no scratches, no dullness, nothing to distract from the purity of the design. Such a coin could easily stand out at auctions and among collectors who admire the beauty of untouched mint brilliance. Even more fascinating are the proof coins, especially those from the San Francisco Mint. Their production process ensures sharpness and mirror-polished surfaces the average penny never sees. A rare coin is often defined not only by how few were produced, but by how few survived the passage of time in desirable condition. Think back to 1971, pennies clattered on countertops, clinked in cash registers, and rattled inside metal tins. Most were spent hundreds of times, scraping and rubbing their way into wear. But every now and then, a coin escapes that fate. Maybe someone tucked it away in a drawer. Maybe a sealed roll sat in a forgotten box in a basement for 50 years. When those untouched coins surface, they become little time travelers from the exact moment they were minted. Some 1971 pennies also attract attention because of dramatic errors. Doubled dies, off-center strikes, and misaligned designs can all capture collector excitement. While certain double dies are well known in earlier Lincoln cents, the 1971 proof double die from the San Francisco Mint stands as one of the more desirable modern-era varieties. The doubling creates a subtle but noticeable ghost-like echo along the lettering or date, and for collectors, these small deviations can elevate the worth from pocket change to highly valued collectible. Still, even without dramatic errors, the charm of the 1971 penny lies in its deeper story. It's a coin that has passed through generations, traveled through countless hands, and witnessed the evolution of the American economy, from a time when a penny still had purchasing power to a modern era where it's almost an afterthought. As a relic, it speaks to the endurance of Lincoln's image, to the long history of the American Mint, and to the idea that every coin, no matter how small, can have a remarkable journey. Now imagine presenting this story to viewers of your YouTube channel. You guide them through the world of numismatics, explaining not just the price or technicalities, but the adventure that every collector feels when they pick up a magnifying glass and begin to explore the world hidden in plain sight. You show high-resolution close-ups of the obverse, the gleam of copper flashing under the lens, the sophisticated beauty of the proof strikes, and the subtle clues that separate the valuable from the ordinary. Your audience leans in, wanting to know more, wanting to check their own jars of spare change. You can describe how collectors search for mint marks, analyze the shape of the letters in the word Liberty, and scrutinize Lincoln's profile for sharpness or flattening. You can transport your viewers through the sensation of finding an unexpectedly pristine 1971 penny among average faded coins. That moment of discovery is why coin collecting remains such a passionate hobby. Then you reveal the heart of your video, the value of a standout 1971 penny, especially one with exceptional preservation or noteworthy traits. You allow your viewers to appreciate why even a humble penny can rise in worth when it is tied to craftsmanship, rarity, and history. While many pennies from this year remain common, the noteworthy ones inspire curiosity. And it's that curiosity that keeps the world of coin collecting alive. With each scene in your script, you can let the audience feel the weight of time and the beauty of details on the coin's surface. You allow your narration to flow like a journey through the past and back into the present. Instead of simply listing numbers and mentions, you weave the narrative of craftsmanship, identity, rarity, and human fascination that has kept the Lincoln penny a beloved symbol for over a century. As your video moves toward its conclusion, you bring the audience back to the modern day. You reflect on how extraordinary it is that something as small as a penny can become a cherished collectible. You encourage them to examine their own change carefully, to remember that treasures are not always buried deep underground. They may be sitting unnoticed in a family drawer, waiting for someone to uncover their story. Finally, after transporting your viewers through history, design, rarity, and collector excitement, you present the value figure you have chosen to highlight. You speak the number with the same reverence collectors feel when discovering a beautiful, overlooked piece of the past. Adventure explores one of the most fascinating coins from American pocket change, the 1978 United States 1-cent Lincoln penny. What seems so ordinary can suddenly become extraordinary when we step into the world of mint marks, subtle errors, scarcity, and the thrill of treasure hunting in everyday life. The appeal of the 1978 Lincoln penny. The Lincoln penny has lived in our pockets, drawers, jars, and coin rolls for generations, becoming one of the most recognizable symbols of American currency. By 1978, the penny had already been circulating for nearly 7 decades under the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln, whose face had watched over the nation through wars, social transformation, and changing economies. But even with its familiarity, the 1978 penny has a charm that continues drawing collectors in today. Its combination of vintage value, resilience, and the lasting allure of copper makes it a standout piece in the long line of American 1-cent coins. As the narrator describes the coin, the camera zooms in on Lincoln's portrait, showing the sculpted hair, the bold lettering, and that crisp curve of the rim, the elements collectors examine first when deciding whether a coin has survived the decades with enough beauty to be desirable. The year 1978 holds a certain nostalgia as well, sitting at the end of a decade full of cultural and technological changes in America. This penny represents both the ordinary and the extraordinary in a single coin. Understanding mint marks and why they matter. A mint mark may seem like a tiny letter, something you could easily miss if you weren't looking for it. But in the world of coin collecting, that tiny mark is like a secret code. It tells the story of where the coin was made, how many were produced, and sometimes even reveals clues about why a particular year or mint location might be more valuable. For the 1978 1-cent penny, there were two major mints that produced coins for everyday circulation: Philadelphia and Denver. Philadelphia minted pennies carry no mint mark, while those struck in Denver are marked with a small and simple letter D just below the date. Though both versions are common overall, certain examples, especially those preserved in pristine condition, become far more desirable to collectors. Imagine a close-up shot of the date on the coin. The narrator encourages viewers to take a moment and examine their own pennies, turning them in good light to catch the mint mark or to confirm its absence. For many, this becomes the first thrilling step in discovering whether their pocket change might be worth more than its face value. The beauty and challenge of 1978 penny condition makes a world of difference in coin value. A penny that has been carried for decades in wallets, fallen beneath car seats, or lived at the bottom of a cup holder will look very different from one that somehow survived untouched. Collectors prize coins with sharp detail, original luster, and no major scratches or discoloration. These high-grade examples are the ones that come alive under direct light, showcasing the craftsmanship of the mint. 1978 pennies were still made of copper, giving them a rich reddish tone that ages beautifully when well kept. The video script highlights the contrast between a circulated penny, darkened by time and handling, and an uncirculated piece that still gleams with its original finish. The narrator dives deeper, describing how experts grade coins from poor to mint state and how a single jump in grade can dramatically influence the coin's monetary worth. Hidden treasures in error coins. Then comes one of the most unforgettable parts of collecting: the hunt for error coins. These aren't damaged coins, they're pieces that left the mint with unique mistakes, turning them into collectible curiosities. Sometimes the die shifts, other times the strike is off-center. Occasionally, a doubling of the lettering or numbers appears, creating what collectors call a double die. The 1978 penny has its own share of minor varieties and quirks that devoted collectors look for. Imagine the camera displaying a slightly off-center strike or a double detail that gives the coin just enough uniqueness to stand apart from millions of others. Suddenly, an ordinary penny becomes something fascinating, something rare, something worth searching for. The narrator invites viewers to explore their own loose change, emphasizing how fun and accessible coin collecting can be. With a little patience and curiosity, anyone might stumble on an unexpected find. Why the 1978 penny remains popular among collectors despite being common. The 1978 penny carries nostalgia, age, and copper value, making it a go-to favorite for new collectors and seasoned numismatists alike. Its design, Lincoln's sturdy profile on the front and the stately Lincoln Memorial on the back, has come to symbolize American history, endurance, and tradition. In a time when most modern pennies are made mostly of zinc, older copper pennies like those from 1978 resonate with collectors who appreciate their weight, tone, and durability. The narrator speaks with warmth, explaining how many collectors start their entire journey by simply finding an old penny from this era. It becomes a gateway to a much larger world of numismatic exploration. The video transitions into a series of visuals showing coin albums, magnifying lenses, digital microscopes, and collectors carefully placing their finds into protective holders. Each item symbolizes the attention and care that goes into preserving these small but meaningful artifacts of American history. A moment of reflection, the value beyond money. Before revealing the coin's monetary worth, the narrator gently guides viewers into a reflective moment. While the financial value of a collectible coin is always exciting, the personal story, history, and thrill of discovery often matter even more. Holding a 1978 penny means holding a piece of the past, something that has journeyed through countless hands, economies, and environments. The narrator reminds viewers that the joy of collecting often comes from curiosity, patience, and learning. Whether a coin ends up being extremely valuable or simply a sentimental piece, it still carries a legacy of craftsmanship and national identity. Leading into the final reveal, the music shifts slightly, more anticipation, more focus. The close-up of the 1978 penny returns, showing its smooth copper glow, sharp details, and that proud year beneath Lincoln's portrait. For collectors, knowing what a coin can be worth is part of the excitement, part of the reason these hidden treasures are so compelling. The narrator prepares to share the specific value requested, building a thoughtful connection between the art of collecting and the concrete rewards that sometimes come with it. The coin might be small, but its significance can be surprisingly large. We dive deep into one of the most fascinating and often misunderstood pieces of American pocket change, the 1982 United States Lincoln 1-cent coin with its mint marks and dramatic transition history. What seems like a simple penny is actually a key to one of the most important changes the United States Mint ever made, and the details behind this year have sparked decades of curiosity, treasure hunts, and incredible coin finds that have stunned collectors around the world. So settle in, because this is not just another coin video. This is a story filled with surprising twists, unusual varieties, a major shift in American coin production, and a value that might take your breath away once we explore why certain 1982 pennies command astounding attention. A year of transformation at the U.S. Mint. The year 1982 was monumental for U.S. coinage. For decades, pennies had been made primarily of copper. But rising copper prices throughout the 1970s and early 1980s created a situation the mint could no longer ignore. By the time 1982 arrived, it was actually costing more to manufacture each cent than the coin was worth. Something had to change, and fast. In response, the mint made one of the most consequential decisions in its history. They altered the penny's composition from 95% copper to a new, cost-efficient structure, a zinc core coated with a thin copper plating. The challenge was that the transformation didn't happen all at once. Instead, both copper and zinc pennies were minted during the same year. And that fact alone introduced a world of confusion, variation, and fascination for collectors. These differences created multiple distinct varieties, including large date and small date designs, coins from different mints, and pieces that were struck in both the old and new metals. The average person never noticed any of this. But coin enthusiasts today understand just how special and complex 1982 truly is. The varieties that shape the legend. To appreciate the full story, we must explore the varieties that exist. The U.S. Mint produced several versions of the 1982 Lincoln cent, and each one carries its own identity. First, the Philadelphia Mint created both copper and zinc pennies in two separate design styles, a large date version and a small date version. That means 4 varieties right there. Meanwhile, the Denver Mint produced similar combinations. When you add both compositions and both date sizes, the total number of recognized 1,982 business strike varieties climbs to 7. But within that mix, collectors become most excited when they encounter the coins that don't quite fit the expected pattern. A 1982 piece whose weight or appearance doesn't match the standard type can be a clue that it's something special, perhaps even a transitional era coin worth far more than anyone would imagine. For context, copper pennies from earlier years weigh about 3.11 grams, while the new zinc pieces weigh around 2.5 grams. That difference may seem small, but it's the key to identifying many rare 1982 finds today. Why mint marks matter. Mint marks play a huge role in determining a coin's identity. In 1982, you will see either no mint mark, indicating it was struck in Philadelphia, or a small letter D beneath the date, showing that the coin was minted in Denver. Those tiny letters are more important than they appear. Coins from certain mints were produced in smaller quantities, struck under different conditions, or known for specific varieties. While millions of pennies were minted in both locations, not all varieties were produced equally. Some combinations are extremely common and worth only their face value. Others, however, are exceptionally sought after, and the quest for rare 1982 pennies with specific mint marks has become somewhat legendary within the coin collecting world. Collectors especially enjoy the hunt for transitional errors, coins struck with the wrong metal for their design. Because 1982 was the year of transition, the potential for mix-ups was real. And when such a mistake turns up today, the value can rise dramatically. The drama of the small date and large date designs. One of the most captivating features of the 1982 penny is the visual difference between the small date and large date designs. At first glance, the numbers might look the same, but with a closer eye, their differences become clear. The small date version has a slightly more delicate, compact shape to the numerals. The curve of the 2 is slimmer, the 8 is more balanced, and the overall arrangement looks cleaner. The large date design, on the other hand, appears bolder, with wider curves and a more robust look. Collectors often use magnification tools, lighting techniques, and the coin's weight to determine the variety they have. Since some combinations, such as the small date copper, are less common, the thrill of discovering one keeps enthusiasts searching through coin jars, bank rolls, and old collections. The value behind the mystery. What really makes the 1982 Lincoln cent so popular is the thrill of possibility. Anyone, anywhere, could come across one of these coins in everyday pocket change. That sense of accessibility empowers collectors at every level, from casual hobbyists to advanced professionals, to hope for an exciting discovery. Additionally, because most people never realized 1982 included multiple varieties, large numbers of these coins quietly circulated for decades. That means many may still be hiding in drawers, jars, attic boxes, or old piggy banks. When a collector finally uncovers a rare version, especially one in excellent condition, its value can be remarkable. Certain high-grade coins, graded by professional services, have sold for impressive amounts, proving that even an unassuming penny can hold extraordinary worth under the right circumstances. A deeper look at the transition year's significance from a historical standpoint. The 1982 penny represents more than a minor production change. It symbolizes a moment when economic forces reshaped one of the most iconic pieces of American currency. This small 1-cent coin, which generations of citizens carried in pockets, gave to children as allowance, or dropped into vending machines, quietly experienced an evolution that many never noticed. The shift from copper to zinc saved the mint millions of dollars, ensuring the continued viability of coin production during a time of soaring material costs. But beyond its practical benefit, the change also sparked decades of intrigue. Collectors realized that such a transitional year naturally created unusual configurations, and that some of those configurations could become valuable treasures. This unique overlap of economics, history, and minting technique is why the 1982 penny remains so endlessly interesting. Every variety tells a slightly different part of the story, and together they form a complete picture of a moment when American currency evolved right before the nation's eyes. Why collectors keep searching even after all these years. 1982 Lincoln cents continue to inspire widespread searching. Countless videos, articles, discussions, and treasure hunts revolve around identifying the varieties and uncovering rare examples. For many collectors, the charm lies not just in the value of the coin but in the experience of exploration. Searching rolls of coins is like opening hundreds of tiny historical windows. No two coins show exactly the same wear, coloring, or aging. Every time someone picks up a 1982 penny, they're holding a piece of a story that spans decades of American life. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary object can carry extraordinary meaning. Bringing the story home. If you're watching this video while holding a handful of pennies, you might be wondering whether you have something valuable right now. And that possibility is exactly what keeps so many collectors engaged. A simple penny from 1982 could belong to one of the year's rare varieties. It could be a transitional coin struck in the wrong metal. It could be a beautifully preserved example worth professional grading. Or it could be a curiosity that sparks your interest to learn more. The beauty of collecting is that the journey is as rewarding as the discovery itself. The 1982 Lincoln cent teaches us that even everyday objects have stories that run deeper than we ever imagine. And that's why this humble penny continues to fascinate enthusiasts all over the world. You reach into your pocket and pull out a handful of coins. Most of them look ordinary, familiar, and practically invisible in day-to-day life. But then your eye catches something, a penny that seems just a little older than the rest. You flip it over, and the date reads 1992. Nothing unusual so far, right? After all, billions of pennies were minted that year. Yet hidden among them is one mysterious and highly desirable variety that coin collectors continue to hunt for, decade after decade. A single cent that, in specific forms, can become a valuable numismatic prize. Today's story reaches back into the early 1990s, a moment when the United States Mint was transitioning between production styles, experimenting with design adjustments, and unknowingly creating a small but dramatic twist in the history of the Lincoln cent. The year 1992 saw the introduction of subtle modifications to the beloved Lincoln Memorial penny design, modifications so slight that most Americans never noticed a thing. But for collectors, that tiny shift opened the doorway to one of the most intriguing varieties in modern penny lore, the 1992 close AM. Before diving into the details, it's worth remembering why the Lincoln cent carries such power in American culture. First introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the design broke new ground by being the first U.S. circulating coin to bear the image of a real historical figure. Sculpted by artist Victor David Brenner, the portrait of Lincoln has appeared ever since, making the penny one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. And while the front of the coin remains largely unchanged, the reverse has gone through several transformations, from wheat stalks to the Lincoln Memorial to the modern Union Shield, each chapter telling its own story of American design and identity. By 1992, the Lincoln Memorial reverse had already served for 30 years. But behind the scenes, mint engravers were preparing a transition to a cleaner, slightly updated layout. Part of this redesign involved adjusting the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the back of the coin. Earlier pennies, including most from 1992, featured what collectors call a wide AM, where the two letters are separated by a noticeable space. However, the upcoming 1993 design closed that gap, placing the letters much closer together. To most people, the difference is hardly noticeable. To collectors, however, it marks the boundary between a standard penny and a sought-after treasure. Now here's where the story becomes fascinating. During the routine operations of 1992, the mint accidentally used a few reverse dies intended for the 1993 close AM design on some of the 1992 pennies. That means a very small number of these coins display the close AM style a full year earlier than planned. The occurrence was rare enough that most Americans spent their pennies without realizing anything unusual about them. But for numismatists, people passionate about studying coins, this tiny error turned an otherwise ordinary 1-cent coin into an extraordinary find. Throughout this video, the camera shifts closer to the penny lying on the table, slowly revealing fine lines and the faint glimmer of copper plating. The narrator explains how one crucial detail sets the 1992 close AM apart: the nearly touching letters A and M. Under magnification, the difference becomes clear. On typical 1992 pennies, the legs of the A and M stand comfortably apart, leaving a thin sliver of space between them. But on the scarce variety, the letters are almost touching, appearing as though they lean toward each other, pulled together like magnets. The video then cuts to a scene showing collectors gathered around a display case at a coin show. One person passes a coin to another with meticulous care, their hands gloved to prevent oils from damaging the delicate surface. Nothing about the coin's weight, color, or texture hints at its rarity. Instead, it's those tiny letters, overlooked by millions of people, that elevate it beyond its face value. But not all 1992 pennies with mint marks are equal. The two mints that produced these coins were Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia coins have no mint mark, while Denver's coins bear a small D beneath the date. The 1992 D close AM is especially challenging to locate, with only a handful confirmed by professional grading services. This scarcity infuses it with a kind of mythic allure, the sort of coin that collectors dream of spotting in old jars, estate boxes, or rolls of bank-issued cents. The narrator's voice deepens with excitement, pulling the audience more fully into the world of rare collectibles. In one segment, we follow the journey of an everyday person who unknowingly finds a 1992 close AM in circulation. They bring it first to a local dealer, who, shocked by the discovery, examines it under a bright halogen lamp. The dealer's eyes widen as he realizes the rarity of the piece. He immediately recommends sending it to a grading company for authentication, where the coin undergoes precise imaging, analysis, and certification. After this cinematic retelling, the narrator explains why authentication is crucial. Because the difference between the wide AM and close AM is so subtle, proper identification is key, and graded coins always achieve the highest confidence and value in the marketplace. Under the cool glow of fluorescent lights at a grading facility, experts with years of training scrutinize every millimeter of the coin before sealing it in a protective holder. The story then expands to explore the broader world of modern coin variety collecting. For decades, the hobby was dominated by older silver coins, large cents, rare mintages, and historical types. But in recent years, collectors have turned increasing attention toward modern varieties, small errors, transitional designs, and subtle differences that often arise during minting shifts. These varieties don't always come from the distant past, some are only a few decades old, yet they command impressive value because of their limited numbers and fascinating backstories. 1992 stands as a hallmark example of this new wave of numismatic discovery. It reminds collectors that treasure can be hiding in plain sight, even in coins that are barely older than many people watching the video right now. The narrator emphasizes that collecting is not just about money but about curiosity, history, and the joy of uncovering something the world has overlooked. As the video continues, the imagery becomes more atmospheric, close-ups of copper coins sliding through a coin sorting machine, the metallic click echoing like distant raindrops. Then we see a hand placing dozens of pennies into neat rows on a table, checking each one carefully under a jeweler's loupe. The narrator speaks warmly, inviting viewers to imagine the thrill of discovery for themselves. Anyone, absolutely anyone, could find one of these pieces. All it takes is patience, keen observation, and a little bit of luck. Next, the script segues into the artistic qualities of the 1992 penny. For example, the portrait of Lincoln on the obverse still carries the elegance of Brenner's original design, though updated in 1969 to sharpen the details. On the reverse, the depiction of the Lincoln Memorial, created by Frank Gasparo, offers an almost architectural precision. When looking closely, even at a regular 1992 cent, you can see the tiny statue of Lincoln seated within the memorial, a miniature masterpiece engraved in gleaming copper. This attention to design contrasts beautifully with the sudden, almost accidental creation of the close AM variety. The narrator pauses to highlight an ironic truth: sometimes the most valuable coins are not the ones meant to be special, not commemoratives or high-end proofs, but simple circulation coins touched by millions of hands. Their rarity comes not from intention, but from tiny slip-ups, transitional dies, or unexpected crossovers between production years. With the atmosphere now deepened by a sense of wonder and possibility, the script shifts into a gentle build toward conclusion. The camera returns to the lone penny beneath a bright spotlight. The narrator's tone becomes reflective, almost poetic, as they remind viewers that value isn't always obvious at first glance. Sometimes it hides in the smallest details: a fraction of a millimeter, a shift in spacing, a moment of transition captured in metal. In the closing segment, the narrator encourages viewers to check their own penny jars, coin rolls, and pocket change. The chance of finding a 1992 close AM may be slim, but the experience of searching transforms something ordinary into something exciting. And for those who do find a true example of this variety, the reward can be significant, far beyond the simple 1-cent denominations stamped on the surface.